Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. We are here to discuss the 3-0 start to the road trip for the Kings and the big win in overtime in Toronto. So get in the chat, like and subscribe. Let's go. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. I'm Russell Morgan, and with me tonight is our guy, Joe Paterino. Joe, our main host, Brandon, isn't here today, so it's just me and you.
Yep.
But, man, I'm kind of pumped right now. How you feeling? Buddy?
I mean, a dominant win in Toronto. Maybe not dominant on the score sheet, winning in overtime, but a dominant win in terms of they were thoroughly the better team, pretty much from the get-go. So it's great to see. You could make a case, the Kings' best 2 games performances of the season could be these last 2 games, the one in Montreal and the one here in Toronto. I mean, really impressive game. Did exactly it. Kemper didn't have a lot to do, and I don't necessarily blame him for the pucks that went in. But obviously, Toronto had leads throughout this game, 2-0, 3-2. But Kings battled back, and they get a late goal from Laferriere to tie it on a good tip, and beauty in OT from Byfield. So yeah, awesome. It's a heck of a win. That was a great performance.
Absolutely. Just to kind of get us going here, we already had some people in the chat before we even got started. I'm sure some people are just excited as we are. Mikey Money, great win, of course. Richie Rich, go Kings go, never in doubt. Yeah, I don't know if it was never in doubt, but yeah, I love the confidence. Holden 92, what's up, guys? That was a fun game. That was a fun game. And Dave O says, keep the Kings on the road. Yeah, that's right. Can we petition to play all the games away? Because the Kings are now, I believe, 8-1-2 on the road. But yeah, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of schedule, what we're going to do today, we'll recap the game in Toronto, talk about the road trip as a whole, maybe some things we like, some things maybe we're not liking really so far, or of late. And then we're going to dive into a little bit of trade talk, because that's what we do here. We love some trade talk. I mean, that's the fun part of analyzing some Kings hockey. So, but yeah, just to kind of start off with the game in Toronto, man, like the Kings hold the Maple Leafs to 15 shots on goal.
Yeah.
Like, to start off with that right there, that's actually the fewest shots the Maple Leafs have had in a game since January 6th of 2017, when they had 14 shots on goal in a game against New Jersey. So incredible effort. I think the Kings, we were talked about a little bit about the game before we got started here, but it was kind of a frustrating game almost in a sense, because the Kings obviously never led in the game until the Quentin Byfield winner, and they were kind of clawing their way back. And it seemed like every goal that went in, all 3 goals that the Maple Leafs scored, were just kind of, I guess, fluky, you can say. I mean, the first one was just a turnover by Kempe, and inside the Toronto blue line, you get a breakaway from McCann. He pots it home. The second goal, Dumoulin gets tackled. I thought it should have been a penalty there. Then takes a puck or a stick to the face, which I get they're not calling high sticking there because it's not technically a high stick. He just takes a stick to the face when he's laying on the ice and can't get back into the play, and Tavares scores. And then the third goal, we had talked a little bit too. It's that new rule where if the puck is dumped in and it from beyond the red line and the goaltender stops it, it's more or less an icing. So your team can't change. So the Danault line stuck out there for a minute plus, and Tavares jumps over the boards and gets their third goal of the game. So the Kings are just chasing the entire game. But even though they felt like they were kind of dominating the entire game, and it wasn't like necessarily like the prettiest goals that they scored, but it was really those grinding goals that I feel like the Kings are going to have to figure out a way to score and produce offense in order to get goals. And sure enough, they got them with the goals tonight. So yeah, it was a game that I feel like the Kings definitely deserved the 2 points, and I thought they thoroughly outplayed Toronto the entire night.
Yeah, they definitely did, and for me, like, this was a game because it didn't feel this wasn't like a this wasn't like a fast-paced game per se necessarily, but clearly the Kings had the puck. They dominated the games. They dominated, what were they, 60 some percent, I think, in shot attempts. They controlled the expected goals. This was the most games that of the score. So I do some scoring chance tracking. And it's like I've said before, it's going to vary. What I do is different than how Natural Stat Trick does it, and yada yada yada. But anyways, I had 25 scoring chances for the Kings in this game, 10 of those coming in the third period, and that is comfortably the most that I've tracked all season. It just seemed like they, for as much as Toronto and Berube wants to play kind of a tougher defensive style. I mean, the Kings were able to get 25 scoring chances by my count, and that, again, the most of the season. They were able to get chances from the slot. We had especially in that third period, man. Malott had a golden chance. Perry had a golden chance. Fiala, Doughty with a great play low to high, more for a good chance. Like, they were able to generate quite a bit against the Toronto team that. There's not a whole lot to get excited about there, especially without Austin Matthews. So, for them to only get 16 shots or whatever the total ended up being, not shocking with Matthews out. Obviously, that's what his game is, shooting. So, this was a game that, especially without Matthews and without Stolars, and I thought the Kings would be the better team coming into this game. They were favored going into the game. I think it closed around minus 130 something, maybe 140 something for the Kings. As this is not an exciting Leafs team. This isn't a very good team. And you take away Matthews, this is a game that LA should have dominated, and they did. And so it was really good to see them make sure that they got those 2 points in the end, because this was a game that they deserved to get a couple.
Yeah, it was kind of weird because after the second period, the high danger chances, according to Natural Stat Trick, were even in the game, which was a little frustrating in itself. Like I mentioned earlier, because the way the Kings were kind of controlling play for most of the game, and that's kind of like where the Kings are at. I feel like, in terms of their offensive production, where for whatever reason they just have a problem getting the puck to the middle of the ice and try to generate scoring chances from that area. So a lot of their goals, kind of like what they scored tonight, right? Is like that Warren Fogle goal, just kind of like a little bit of a gimme there from Hildeby. Probably one he went back from that wrister from the outside of the circle. The second one where, I mean, we'll talk about Kevin Fiala maybe a little later, just the way he's been just dominating of late. I mean, this team is totally different with the way he's been playing. And the third goal with Alex Ferrier, who, for whatever reason, has a knack for he's totally great at getting in front of a shooter, getting his stick free, and then getting his stick on the puck for deflection. And it was great. I mean, those aren't flukes too. When you're controlling the play the way that the Kings were tonight, like, you get goals like that, because when you're constantly shooting the puck and getting scoring chances from, even though they're not necessarily from the high danger chances, they're still pretty decent chances. I thought the Kings were doing a great job with that. I mean, shout out to our guy Ray Ferraro on the telecast. That was great to hear. It's kind of weird too. Like, I'm thinking, as a Kings fan, I'm watching the game. Like, I'm watching a game with John Kelly and Ray Ferraro. Like,
it's awesome.
When was the last time there's been a telecast without, like, Nick Nixon or Jim Fox or Bob Miller? Like, I feel like it's been forever since that's happened. So, like, to have those two, who are great, obviously, two of the best at what they do. Ray Ferraro's, I thought he did a great job kind of pointing out how the Kings were able to really get out of their own zone, kind of willy-nilly, felt like they just got no pressure from Toronto all game. And as far as the Maple Leafs, like, coming into the season, I wasn't necessarily high on them. I picked them to miss the playoffs, and it seems to be like a pretty decent pick at this time. But without Matthews, they're just not a dangerous team. And you kind of sense that throughout the entire game. I mean, they're really just being carried by John Tavares. And I mean, lucky for them that he was able to take that discount to kind of stay there and be as productive as he was. But besides that, I mean, you have Willie Nylander, who, I'm not the biggest fan of Willie Nylander. I think he kind of floats around and hunts for offense more than do anything else on the ice. And then you look at their defense, it's kind of really suspect in terms of that position too. So, I mean, the Kings really took advantage. And like you said, they were the favorites coming into the game. And I thought they were the better team throughout the entire game, and they deserved the 2 points. So it was good to see that. But at the road trip as a whole, I mean, it's been like this game, I feel like, since the third period in Pittsburgh. They've been playing Kings hockey, which I feel like this is what Ken Holland and Jim Hiller envisioned coming into the season, right? Is playing this like really controlling, slow pace, grinding out type of game where they're going to force these maybe high-powered offensive teams to really kind of force their way to hunt offense and try to speed into the zone, where the Kings have always been a team that's going to do great at denying zone entries and controlled entries. And we've seen that, especially with tonight, going back to Montreal, and even maybe parts of the game in Pittsburgh. I feel like this entire road trip, we're seeing the Kings really start to get to their level of play and the type of game that they want to play.
Tonight for sure. And I would agree the third period against Pittsburgh, but the Montreal game was weird to me because I didn't think they were great I didn't think they were good at all in the first. If anything, they got lucky. Kemper bailed them out in the first period. And then there was a talk about kind of a fluky stretch where they scored those 3 goals in just a few minutes there.
Yeah,
and it
minutes,
was it was a little like there was the one off the face off, and now I'm drawing a blank, but it was kind of like it was quirky. Like there was one bounce that went to Fiala. It was, they took advantage of it. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't think they were up until that point necessarily controlling the play. I thought the first period was all Montreal. The Kings did have a much
too, yeah.
Oh yeah, they did have a much better start in that second. So it wasn't as if it was against the run of play in that little stretch, but yeah, I mean particularly today, they were able to really kind of strangle Toronto. Kemper had to make some saves when he was called upon. But I just think they took advantage of not a very good Toronto team right now, frankly. And they did exactly what they needed to do.
What is it with this team on the road right now? And in comparison maybe to their home record? Because it's such a contrast to what we saw last year, right? Like this team was so dominant at home. I mean, you've said this, right? Like countless times. The carryover just, you never buy it, right?
No, I don't. It doesn't matter. And there's no rhyme or reason. Like there was a couple years ago that the Kings they set a record for road wins in a row, didn't they, to start a season? It doesn't matter. Like it's like there will probably be a stretch at some point this season where the Kings rattle off 3 or 4 straight at home and they go 3 or 4 in a row on the road where they lose. Like there's honestly, I really don't think there's a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. I think there's a lot of flukiness. I don't know what their home and road underlyings look like, because I think there was there's been years where they're good on the road, their record's good on the road, but they play better at home from an expected goal standpoint. So I don't know. It is weird. I get it. I don't put a ton into it, just because you see this happen from year to year where it can just vary for whatever reason. And I don't know what the reason is, but because listen, it's not, you understand it for a team like Toronto or a team like Edmonton or a team like Montreal, or the Rangers, we got to get out of the home because there's just too much pressure at home. We got to get away. That ain't the case in Los Angeles. So it's nothing like that. So I don't know, it's fluky, I think, but you, especially now early in the season, you take these road points when you can get them, because, I expect the home play to turn around a bit. They're not going to be this kind of poor at home for all season. So that'll get better. And they've banked a ton of points here on the road early. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember Trevor Moore spoke to the media after the last game against Florida before they left. And the one thing he said that stuck out to me is maybe we can get on the road and where it's just us against the building. And I was like, oh, that kind of, I've never heard it really been say like that. But it's really that, I guess, that mentality, I guess, is what some of these players have that can kind of carry that success on the road. So this is turning actually into a really good night because the Ducks lost earlier. And then, as our guy Dan P points out, the Oilers just lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets. So,
okay,
great night for the Pacific Division. for
I
the
know
Kings.
Vegas is in action against the Islanders. I don't know what.
Yeah, and Vegas is the Islanders, and San Jose, who is stunningly close to the Kings, kind of 3 points out. They're losing to the Calgary Flames, who are struggling in their sense. But just to kind of, I want to talk about this game a little bit more tonight.
Yeah,
Brant Clark, I thought, was tremendous
there's
the
a
entire
shot.
game. He played 20 minutes and 50 seconds. I think Johnny Utah pointed out that was second to only Drew Doughty. Where is it at? If I can find it. There it is. Yeah, 20 and 50, second to only Drew Doughty on the night. And it was funny, though, because it wasn't even like necessarily his offensive play that stood out to me. I thought his defensive, like his man-on-man coverage, and Hiller propped him up quite a bit. And, of course, Hiller's going to point out the defensive part of his game more than anything else. But there was one shift that he had, I believe, in the second period where I forget who the player he was stuck with, but he was just glued to him the entire shift in the defensive zone. And it eventually led to a clear and control for the Kings. So it's like when you see that happen, I'm sure that's exactly what Hiller saw too. That led to give Clark some of those extra minutes to play. And I'm sure also they're chasing the game. So you want to get that offense out there. But I think that defensive part of the game has really kind of stood out for Clark. And I hope this continues because I want to see those minutes keep going up and stay at this consistent basis. Because, I mean, the Kings controlled play most of the game. And if you're playing Clark 20-plus minutes, there has to be a reason for that, right?
Yeah, and I agree. And I don't know if it's the same play or shift that you're talking about, but there was I want to say it was in the second period where I don't know if it was a turnover or there was a kind of a play to the slot that looked like it could have been dangerous, and Clark maybe could have been out-muscled, but he wasn't. He won the one-on-one battle, and that was, I remember vividly that particular play, thinking that's a big play by Clark there to disrupt that and make sure that it didn't get to his guy, and it turns out being they end up getting out of the zone. So I listen, I completely agree. I think he's been really, really good, probably overall LA's best defenseman, albeit acknowledging he's not playing against other teams' top competition, which I think, can go one of two ways. Like I think you give Hiller credit and DJ Smith credit for, making sure he's in the right spots and finding good spots to get him in. But at the same time, he kind of also has to play more. So, and he's starting to. So he's inevitably, if he's playing more, he's going to be playing against some of the better teams or some of the other teams' top competition. So that'll come. And yeah, I thought he looked great tonight. I thought he looked great against Montreal as well, I believe it was. He's just playing really, really good hockey right now. Really good hockey.
He's playing really smart. And that shot, just like a perfect example of like what, like he doesn't put a lot of velocity on his shot, but like when you have a shot that maybe flutters a little bit and gives those forwards that opportunity to get a stick on it. I mean, he just finds a way to get pucks through, and Lefebvre was able to get a stick on it.
It's something we talk about as coaches. I mean, I know obviously the high school level is a lot different, but it doesn't have to be hard. Yeah, you've got to, especially if there's traffic. You don't need it to be hard. You got to make sure that you're getting it there and you're getting it through. Because a lot of times if you're shooting it, you're going for power, it's going to get blocked, or your chances of missing the net is far more likely. But if you're Clark and you're able to get a quick snapper off instead of having to, wind up and go, blade to the ceiling and try to get a clapper, like that's a smarter shot. And it ended up paying off because they were able to get a stick on it. So, that was really good play by Clark.
I want to talk about Kevin Fiala, man. I think we have to. The last 3 games, 3 goals, 1 in each game, an assist, added an assist in the Pittsburgh game, has averaged, let me read his time on ice. Pittsburgh, 23-19, Montreal, 18-29, and tonight, 20-31. Why can't we get this Kevin Fiala every night? Like, this is like, when he plays at this level, this team is totally different. When you get this level of Kevin Fiala, he's a game breaker, right? Like this, he's one of the best wingers in the NHL when he plays at this level. And we see it what happens to this team when they get this level of play from Kevin Fiala. You get like production on top of like the trust from the coaching staff to play him all those minutes as opposed to like 16, 17 minutes where you can't put him in those high pressure, high leverage situations. Now you're able to. Now you can trust him to get yourself out of the zone, and maybe you're holding a lead or down by one. Need to put some offensive pressure on. I mean, the way he's been playing the last 3 games is just like it's some of the best hockey. I know there's been stretches he's been playing great, but man, at least this season, it's easily the best hockey he's played this year.
He's been great. I mean, he is the most pure skilled player on the team. He's probably, along with Kempe, but because Kempe has much more of that kind of north-south to his game, where Fiala has that kind of, I think Randon used to call him an amoeba, with how he can just flutter into the slot area. He can create for himself. That he's a potential game breaker whenever he's on the ice. And we really saw how well him and Byfield played together when they were put together last year. That's continued on into this season. I mean, Fiala's had 7 5-on-5 goals to start the season here. He's been really, really good. He is getting a ton of scoring chances, leads the team in that department. Like he's leads the team in individual expected goals, according to Natural Stat Trick too. Like he's just all over the ice right now, and he's extremely dangerous. And you use the word trust because I know him and Hiller have had, Hiller's had some concerns with Fiala in the past, right? He's been set down a couple times or benched here and there or whatever. But it's funny. This is, you were talking about the broadcast earlier. This was these last 2 games I've happened to watch the Canadian broadcast. So I missed freaking Kelly, and I didn't even know Ray Ferraro was going today on the Kings broadcast. I sometimes I like watching the Canadian ones, but it was funny you mentioned trust, because after I think it was the Fiala goal to tie the game at 2, there was a shot on Sportsnet of Berube having a stern conversation with William Nylander. Because now William Nylander and that whole line was kind of gassed at the end of the shift, but if the highlights that they were showing on Sportsnet was Nylander was, he was probably gassed, but the effort wasn't there either, and it didn't look like Berube was very happy about it. But guess who assisted on the go-ahead goal for Toronto shortly thereafter? William Nylander. So you gotta have that kind of, it's a little bit of a tug and pull sometimes with those high skill, high level players. Like you need them to get it. You need them to be contributing to the defensive zone, but at the same time, you got to understand what their role is. And their role is putting pucks in the net. And that's what those type of players are capable of doing. So that's why we always like to say on this show, let Kev be Kev, because just let him go. Let him play his game. There's not a perfect game. There's flaws in his game, and I'm not even saying like defensively. I don't think he's that bad of a defensive player, but he has some, he can be a little risky with the puck. He can take some undisciplined penalties, but I think you got to live with some of it, because what he's capable of is what you're seeing. And the Kings do not have a player like him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny you say his defensive game, because there was like multiple times that one of the Kings defenders would go down low, and I see it's Kevin Fiala at the point holding court, kind of waiting for them, kind of covering for them. And that's huge right there, right? Like a lot of wingers will just be like, all right, I'm going to go down low and stay down low and not going to go back up. But like that's kind of goes in line with the trust. And I feel like, it's like that missed meeting that he had where he couldn't figure out the iPad or whatever it was. It's probably been the best thing that has ever happened to his hockey career in LA, because ever since then, he's just been a totally different player. And Tofu Tomu points out a little bit too. It hasn't just been Fiala; it's been the line itself too. I mean, Alex Teixeira, last 3 games, he has a point in each game with a goal tonight, an assist in each of the last or previous 2 before that. Quentin Byfield, back-to-back games of goals and assists. It was looking a little iffy there for Byfield, right? It was looking a little like, I think someone had asked earlier, when like early parts of the year, like Byfield has kind of been quiet a little bit. And I was like, kind of wait for it a little bit. And then I kind of saw like we hadn't really seen Q do much. He's been a little maybe too quiet for a player that maybe you're expecting to kind of take off a little bit. But these last two games, and maybe it obviously goes in line a little bit with the way Kevin Fiala's been playing, but it's not just him. I feel like Quentin Byfield has kind of been helping his game along too. And I'm sure the goal yesterday definitely helps his confidence. And the goal tonight, I mean, the way he got it was great. Obviously, the overtime winner, the slapper, and he's got 2 assists to go along with it. What are you seeing? Maybe kind of a turn in Quentin Byfield's game where now he's starting to figure it out a little bit, or you're still kind of it's in a wait and see mode for him?
No, because I think, and I'd have to go back and listen because I do remember this being brought up a few shows back, and I'm like, I think it's a little early because I think at the time he was, again, according to my tracking, was still leading the Kings in like chance assists per 60, but maybe now some of those chance assists are ending up in the back of the net, like with Fiala getting a bundle these days, and the way he's finishing. And so maybe it's just a few more pucks are going in for he and that line. But like I look now and he leads the team in chance assists. Him and Fiala are top 2 in chance contributions on the team. And I think they go hand in hand because Fiala leads the team in chances per 60. So yeah, I think the play hasn't been bad all season. I think he was playing fine. I think what we all want at the end of the day for these guys, especially a player like Byfield, especially a player that we needed him to be the guy, the 1C that this Kings team desperately needs, is that the production just has to come. Like, you can't have people like me saying, well, he's got a lot of chance assists. Nobody wants to hear that. Like, no,
they don't, Joe. They really don't. I'm sure you know that more than anybody.
I do, and they really don't. And I get that, and I respect that. But my whole thing, the reason I bring it up is because if he's not getting those, then I'm concerned. But he's involved in the scoring chances, and you just hope that eventually, some quote unquote puck luck comes along. And, now he and that line are in a bit of a heater. So you're starting to see that. So it needs to be consistent. We know that. We've talked about that. We cannot have Byfield take the first half of the season off. And really he hasn't, right? He's pacing out to be, I think, a career year points wise or close to it. So he's certainly, he's certainly, the production's coming a little earlier. And I do want to point out, Russ, that so here Holden says 4 goals, 16 points. That's should be the expectation. If your expectation is Byfield scores 30 goals and gets, 40, 50, 60 assists, I think your expectations are a little off. I don't think he's a 30, maybe he'll eventually turn into it. I don't think right now Byfield's like a 30 goal scorer. Remember before the season, I think I had him at 20-ish, 20 to 22 goals, and then a 50, 55 assist type of season. I think he's pacing right around there. I think around 20 goals, but he's going to be more of a playmaker. And that's okay. He doesn't, if his line is scoring, which Fiala is, we've seen a few different guys on that line. Right. We've seen, Laferriere, of course. Armia has been there a little bit from time to time. We've seen Perry a couple times when they're down. Sometimes we'll see Kempe. I mean, it looks like Laferriere is who they prefer there if they can get it to stick and they can run with it. So, if those guys start finishing some of these chances, he's going to get his points. And we're starting to see that. Again, 16 points in 18 games. That's the type of pace that I don't know what that pace is offhand, but that's the type of pace that you're looking for. And I don't think that should be this expectation that Byfield's got to go score 30 goals type of thing. He doesn't. He needs to create chances for his line, which he's doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think that. I mean, if you get the playmaker, Byfield's always kind of been like a playmaker in my sense. I mean,
agreed.
Like you said, the shooting will probably come, but when you have a player who's kind of on fire with the way Kevin Fiala has been playing, I mean, just give him the puck at this point and let him go to work. And I think Quentin Byfield's doing a great job at that. I want to dive into the Deneau line that we saw tonight. And Toku Tuomo points out that folks are starting to heat up, had the empty net goal in the game in Montreal, then had maybe fair to say, a little bit of a softie tonight, which you're always going to take those. That's what it is.
Take it.
But I think the more Dano Fogel line, this is probably their better game. Maybe one of the best games that they've played together as a season. I've been a little frustrated with the way Dano's been playing the last few, especially just before the start of the road trip. The game in Florida, I thought he was horrible. Probably one of the worst games he's played in a Kings uniform. I'm still kind of wanting to see more in terms of offensive production. Maybe that's a little too much of me to ask for him because he's never really been that guy. We kind of got blessed a little bit with his first year in LA when he produced, I think it was like 25 goals or something that he scored, and then he just hasn't really scored that. I think he had 9 goals last year and he hasn't scored this year yet. So I still want to see more though with the amount of minutes he's playing. But you had a great article kind of defending him a little bit and the way he's been playing up on hockeyroyalty.com for those who want to read it. Maybe talk a little bit about what you're seeing out of Dano and maybe a little bit about his line mates too.
Yeah, I think with Dano and his line in general, like this is kind of it's hard, as I think the role he's being asked to play is kind of what we quote unquote as fans or whatever have wanted him to be in terms of like he's, don't count on him to score or be a productive guy. Let Kopitar and Byfield handle the top two, and he's more of your kind of matchup shutdown type of center, because he's getting the toughest competition out of anybody. And I wanted to at least acknowledge, like, yeah, his production is down. It's not there. He doesn't have a goal. I do think he's creating. He is his shot assist per 60, and he's generating some scoring chances. Like it's not all nothing. But like he's also out there consistently against the team's best players, especially at home. This is clearly who Hiller wants out there against. Now, it's funny you mentioned that Florida game. I'll go back and look, but like I wonder if his who his matchups were. Then again, it's not like that team has Barkov anymore, but because of his injury. But he's being tasked. So if I've mentioned Hockey Viz on this site quite a bit, or on this show quite a bit. They have a breakdown of each single player, and you can see the opponents and his line mates. And the quality of line mates for Dano is like middle to bottom 6, which, yeah, right. It's Trevor Moore, Fogel. I think Armia's been there a little bit at times. Corey Perry's been there a little bit at times. And then his opponents, though, are 1, 2, 3. He's always getting the other team's top players, top line players. So I think from a production standpoint, we should probably level set if he is, especially as he's getting a little bit older. I don't think it needs to be something where he's, it can't be what it is. Like he's got to produce a little bit more than what he's doing now. But I also think, given the difficulty of his matchups, I think that should be taken into consideration. Now, as a line, they need to be better though. Like, because Trevor Moore has scored 30 in this league. Fogel's coming off a career year. So not really necessarily fair to expect Moore to score 30 or expect Fogel to have a year like last year. But we need to see more from that line, because remember, the Kings do not have a lot of high-end talent. Like they don't have they can't compete with the McDavids and the Dreisaitl's and the Eichels and the Marners in the division, right? They can't do that. Their whole game is predicated on depth. And the deeper they go down that lineup, they need that Dano line to chip in. They don't need to necessarily be leading in goals or anything like that, but they need to chip in. Fortunately, they're getting some plenty of chip in from Perry, but that's going to dry up at some point. He's not going to score forever. So like Dano, the Dano line does need to score. I will say, I mentioned in the article, like we've talked about with Kopitar, trying to find ways to scale back some of his minutes. Maybe it's taking him off the penalty kill. We've seen his minutes on the PK kind of come back a little bit over the last couple of years. I don't see any reason why Dano's got to be on the power play right now on the second unit. I would get him off of that again, maybe just because he's an important part of the penalty kill. He's clearly an important part of the 5-on-5 because Hiller matches him up against the other team's top line so frequently that anything you can do to kind of trim off that minute and a half that he's getting per game on the power play, minute and a half to 2 minutes or whatever it is per game on the power play. Let him save that energy. I don't think he needs to be on the power play on the second unit. I think Alex Turcotte is more than capable of handling that. I think he's shown far more creativity this season in terms of in the offensive zone. But I get the frustration with Deneau. But I just think that, the task right now for him is extremely difficult when you look at the quality of his competition.
It's weird too, because I think Hiller's maybe starting to see it a little bit too. I mean, tonight he played 15:42. That's his third lowest on the season.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Florida, in the Florida game, he played 14:45. And then there was that other game in San Jose where it seemed like he inexplicably got benched and he only played 10 minutes. There's really nothing more made of that. On the season, he's averaging 16:51, which I believe would be the lowest since he joined the team and the lowest since 2017-18 for him. So this could be a product of Quentin Byfield just getting more minutes. I mean, so maybe there's that. But like you mentioned it, and Dalek Evan points it out here too, where he says, I don't really expect much production from Deneau at 5-on-5. Where I get frustrated with him is that he's still getting power play time despite being an absolute black hole in offense. And yeah, you had mentioned it. Dalek says it better here. He just, it doesn't make any sense to keep Deneau on the power play. I mean, he's got no goals 5-on-5. He's got no goals in the power play. He's got no goals anywhere. So I love the way Turcotte's been playing. He's maybe not the better option at 5-on-5 when you gotta, like, his size seems to be a weakness for him at times, especially along the board. So I get that in terms, but when you can get Turcotte to display that offensive creativity a little bit more, I feel like you got to give him the chance to do so. Yeah. And the second power play unit should be that chance to do it, because right now, I mean, the power play as a whole, we can just talk about that. It's just really frustrating to watch right now. I don't understand what the strategy is. It seems like everything was fixed when Kuzmenko was on board. Now he's not, and we can talk about Kuzmenko after this. But the power play right now, it's for whatever reason just has no strategy. They don't want to get the puck to the middle of the ice, and I guess maybe the only strategy is let's get the puck to the Kempe at top, and then maybe we can get a deflection or a rebound or something. And that should never be your number one goal in the power play. Never. You should try to utilize that slot shot or just middle of the ice or go low to high as many chances you get. And for whatever reason, the Kings don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's none of that. And that's what made it so effective when Kuzmenko was on it last year, was we started to see all of that come into play. And, we saw it happened again today in the first period. And I don't know if this is Quentin Byfield's fault or if this is what he's being told to do. But again, the second that puck gets up anywhere above the top of the circle, he's immediately retreating down to like the hash marks in the low hash mark area. And I don't like it on the power play. I don't like it. I like the high bumper because it just opens up some space. Give Kempe, give Kopitar, give Fiala an option to a quick 5-foot pass to the bumper to just keep the killers honest. It backs them off for just a second. And then if QB might be able to one touch it right back to them, but in doing so, you might have just created a half second and a foot or two's worth of space for either Kevin Fiala to make a play, for maybe Kevin Fiala to make a pass, or for Kopitar to make a pass. But the second they get the puck, he just backs in, and like Corey Perry's already there. So maybe the goal genuinely might be for the Kings to have kind of a stacked and a layered screen. That may be part of the goal. Again, I don't like the strategy these days. I just think it's a little too old school where, Russ, it's filter the puck up to Kempe. And I have not liked a lot of Kempe's shot selections from where he is. But again, not sure if I'm blaming Kempe if the directive is pucks to the net and hope. because that's what it is right now. And it's funny, like they may end up being like the victim of their own success. Like Corey Perry, the fact that he's here and immediately starts scoring goals from like almost all of them in the crease. Like he's had a couple of nice goals, don't get me wrong, but now they're like, we just got to do this every time now. It's like, well, yes, when Corey, he's excellent at that, right? He's really good at that. But I don't think that also means you need to have Byfield standing a stick length in front of him for a layered screen. I don't like it. I mean, I do want to try to go back and watch, watch at least a few games worth of power plays, because to me, the thing that always jumps out to me is there's movement around the perimeter. There's almost nothing to the slot area. The bumper is ineffective, and I feel like I've been saying this for like 2 or 3 years now. For some reason, they're like the one team that doesn't utilize it. I don't know what it is. It is frustrating. And it's like, if you're going to have 5 forwards, don't you want like some more creativity? If you're going to have that, isn't that the point? Like, otherwise just get Doughty up at the top. If it's just get it to the point and wire shots, then put Doughty up there.
Hell, put Joel Edmondson up there.
I mean, like, if that's the goal, is just shots from the point while Fiala just stands there on the circle. So again, it's hard for me to like, I don't want to, like, I don't think Byfield has looked very good in the bumper now, but again, I don't know if that's Byfield or if that's, this is where they want him to go. So it is frustrating. And then, when we get the second unit out there, and not for nothing, the second unit's been scored on too, and they got 2 defensemen. So it's not fair to necessarily say that it's all been, because the first unit has 5 defensemen, or 5 forwards. Like, the second unit's been scored on too. And I think I would suspect the only reason Dino's on that is for faceoffs. But it ain't as if it's working. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't like it. I feel like it's a missed opportunity, especially with 5 forwards, and especially with some of the high. There is some skill on that unit. I'd like to see a little bit more fluidity, because there's nothing there. Like, they stay in their spots. There's very little. Where last year, when it was effective, they were like, we saw 3 different guys in that slot area at times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was very free flowing. And for some reason, they've gone away from that.
It's funny you mentioned that go to the front of the net, because I think it was after the Florida game, Hiller was like, well, if you want to score, you got to go to the front of the net. And I don't know if he's specifically talking about the power play, but that probably goes in line, like you mentioned, with Corey Perry being here and the way he's been scoring goals. But I don't know what to make. Maybe they just need more practice time. I don't know. I don't want to give them an excuse, but there hasn't really been much practice. Obviously, you're on the road too much. I'm sure they're running it at least at the morning skates, but even then, I don't know if it's that much.
Right.
It kind of feels like they don't really know what to do with Byfield, right? Like,
yes.
He was on the last game. He was on PP2 with Kuzmenko in. This game, Kuzmenko's out. He's back on PP1, and it's like, now where do we put him? Like, you obviously are going to put Corey Perry in the front. They love Kempe at the top. Fiala's going to play the flank, and then you have Kopitar at the other flank. And it seems like Byfield's kind of just lost. He's like, where do I go now? And he's probably being told, if you want to score, go to the front of the net. And like you've mentioned, like, he's just kind of clogging that area where it's not really you're kind of just now just left with an umbrella without the pole along with it. It's just the umbrella part. It's just let's just go along the top and just shoot it and just hope that maybe we can get something at the bottom. Like, that's really all it is. So it's really frustrating to watch the power play right now, especially like with, I think somebody mentioned it earlier, there's been so many shorthanded chances that they've been giving up too. Do you think it's maybe like as far as the 5 forward, do you think they just need to get away from the 5 forwards at this point and maybe put Doughty or Clark on PP1?
So if I would love to see Clark on the power play, and the way he moves is going to force the other guys to move, because he doesn't stand still. He doesn't set in his spot. He's going to roam. And I love that. I don't know if they want him to do that on a top unit, for example. But I love that. It offers a little bit of creativity. It offers a little bit of unpredictability. It forces the killers to have to maybe think an extra second. Because if you think about it, it's very easy, I would think, from a penalty kill standpoint for the Kings, right? They all stand in their same spots for the most part. If the puck goes up high, they know Byfield is going to fall back down. So if the puck goes down low, then Byfield will try to get himself into an area, but the puck really doesn't down low that often. It's kind of easy to defend, I think, because like the seams aren't going to open up if you don't ever threaten there. If Byfield's just, he's on a rod, and if the puck goes up high, he's going to come back down low. That entire high slot area is wide open, so the killers don't have to worry about, they have to acknowledge Byfield there, so they're able to that they can comfortably cut any sort of seam pass off there because there's no other threat. It just is, yeah. Like if this is how they're going to do it, then they might as well get Doughty on or Clark on. I agree with your thought on Byfield there. And personally, I think and I'd be curious to know where you're at. I kind of like him in, like, let him go down low. Let him be in the Corey Perry spot on PP2. Let him be the down low guy. And I've said before, I want my down low net front guy. He's also like my pass option guy down at the goal line. Like, I don't want my bumper guy to also be my net front guy because that space in the slot opens up and I don't like that. So like, let him be the net front / down low guy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I think he can be really good at that.
He's got the size for it, right? I mean,
he's got the size for it. He's got the hands for it, right? He's got really good hands in down low. He's going to win puck battles, and he's got the passing ability. So say we talked about Kuzmenko when he was the right shot on the PP1, he would be on the right side of the goalie on the goal line. So you could work. It would be Kopitar could come down low to Kuzmenko. He could make a pass to the lefty in the bumper, right? Byfield could just do that on the other side, right? So if you've got Byfield, I mean, I would work something like if you've got Byfield down on the left, he's the net front / left flank. This is where I'd like to see Turcotte, again, a creative playmaker on that right side. They can play catch together. Either Clark or Doughty, if they want to have a defenseman there, can play catch together. And now you got a right shot in the bumper. And, you talked about Russ Laferriere finding himself like kind of quietly in that bumper area on that goal. He's a smart player, and I think he can be effective in that role. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that. Or Kuzmenko, for example. If he's going to go back, if he's going to be PP2, we can talk about him because obviously he was a scratch today. Maybe he's somebody that slides into that bumper. But I think you can get a lot of creativity if your main playmakers on PP2 are Turcotte on the right flank, Byfield down low, and you've got a right shot, whether that's Laferriere, whether that's Kuzmenko in the bumper on PP2. I think you're cooking with something there. And and then, and on the other side, you can have, if you want to roll the 2D still, have Clark up top and Doughty on the left. And now you got Turcotte on the right, Byfield down low, both lefties with an option to go righty to the bumper to Laferriere or righty to Doughty for that seam pass one-timer that let Doughty load from there. I think there's some creative options there if they did want to go that route. Because I think you're right with Byfield that I don't know if they've figured out where the best fit is. I want to say I'd like to see him down low. I think he can be effective there.
Yeah, if you have Byfield on PP2, then you don't necessarily have to worry about face-offs, I guess. I feel like he's been a little bit better. I haven't really looked
Good point
into the numbers too much. So you have a centerman there. But yeah, as far as the power play, you mentioned his name, and we'll talk about it. Kuzmenko being scratched today. I mean, to be honest with you, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I mean, coming into the year, it was maybe wishful thinking to think that he'd be able to repeat a lot of the success that he brought into LA after being traded here last year. This has just been the type of player he is. He gets to a new team. He goes off on the first year or the first season that he's with them, and then he kind of just falls off. So I'm not here to say that we'll never see Kuzmenko again because I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think I want that to be the case. I mean, obviously you get the win tonight, and I thought Jeff Malott played a pretty good game. Maybe it was a little bit of kind of a reward maybe to tied into that with Malat being from Toronto. You get some family coming in for him and give Kuzmenko a reset kind of game off. What did you think from the scratch? Was it a surprise to you? Is it something you think that we'll see continue on here?
It was a surprise, but I shouldn't have been surprised. Clearly the ice time lately, you saw what happened again in Montreal. Like the kind of writing was sort of on the wall, so I really shouldn't have been surprised. I guess I definitely was, though. I don't know. I don't think his play. I go back and forth on this because, like, the fan in me, I don't think his play has been all that bad. I don't think his play has been scratch worthy, but understanding the way the Kings want to play, putting my coach hat on, clearly there's things that Hiller and the coaching staff are like, you're not getting it. You're not doing what you need to be doing. And I had been thinking, and I ended up finding it and tweeting it out because I was like, man, I can vividly remember at least one goal where Kuzmenko blew his assignment. And it was the first goal against Florida. And I had tweeted it out. He just, again, the man-on-man coverage. So he was the first forward down low. The D-man swung up and he had his guy. And then he lost his guy for a second. Then he lost the one-on-one battle, and it was in the back of the net.
Sam Bennett just kind of schooled him down low.
Correct. Yes.
Granted, he does that to a lot of players, but yeah.
And he does that to, and in fairness to Kuzmenko, he ain't a D-man and he ain't a centerman. So a lot of times that's your D-man or a centerman that's in that spot. And unfortunately for him, it was him. And I'm not, so that I don't even know how much something like that played into it. But, that's an example of, him. This is a team that's predicated on being responsible, and they need to trust guys defensively. We've talked about that at length over the years. And if Hiller doesn't have that or isn't seeing enough of that consistently, and I will eventually go back and kind of watch his shifts in the Montreal game to see what ultimately, if there was something they're like, okay, he's not getting it and we got to sit him down, because clearly there's something. And I can appreciate that. I get it. On the outside, we don't have to see it or understand it necessarily. If there's something that he's not doing that this coaching staff wants him to do, then this is a message. Now, I'm assuming this is like some sort of reset, because listen, they're going to need him. The Kings don't have enough scoring to not have Kuzmenko, even though his start has been slow production-wise. They are going to need Kuzmenko the rest of the way, and they're going to need him to be productive. So whatever this is, hopefully it's short-lived, and hopefully he gets it figured out. I agree. I can't imagine like this, we're not going to see Kuzmenko for an extended stretch. I suspect he'll be back in there at some point, although, again, Malat did have a pretty good game today and the Kings won. So
yeah, where do you play him? Right?
Would we be shocked if, would we be shocked? The second he was traded, it's like, just put him with Fiala and Byfield. Just put him right there. And you understood it going with Kopitar and Kempe, and it ended up working out, clearly. Obviously, the start of the season, it hasn't. But like we talked about earlier, the matchups that Danault's getting. Well, Kuzmenko ain't known for his defensive play. And so they put him with Danault and Moore for a couple of games. It's like, to match up against the other team's top line, that ain't going to work. That's a situation where you're putting him in a situation to not succeed. He's not there to be a defensive forward. When he is in the defensive zone, he needs to be responsible. He needs to do his job. But like, he's there to produce. He's there to score. And it ain't going to be with Danault and Moore when they're tasked in a shutdown role, more or less. So if it wasn't clicking with Kopitar and Kempe to start the season, man, why not try him a bit with Byfield and Fiala? Like, they've had no issues moving Laferriere around. Like, Laferriere was on the fourth line earlier this season. So like, they've got no problem. Again, Laferriere is like, he'll play wherever, and it's not like if it didn't work with Kuzmenko, with Byfield and Fiala, like, Kuzma. They just put LaFerriere back, and he slots right back in, and he's been pretty, adaptable. So, but like if you want to get him going offensively, get him going with your best 2 offensive players, right? And that's Byfield and Fiala. So I'd still like to see that, and I don't think, I really like, what Joel Armia has brought to this team. I don't think he's a first line winger. LaFerriere has had success on that top line. I don't think there's a problem putting LaFerriere up there, right? Put LaFerriere up there, Kuzmenko with Byfield and Fiala, and then you've got Armia with Perry and Turcotte, like you planned all along. I don't see a problem with that. We'll see what they decide to do and how long Kuzmenko is out for, but that's like the next step I would take, is to try a route like that, because they need this. They need him to score. You can listen. They brought him in because they needed a top 6 winger last year at the deadline, and it was a home run of a trade. You can't go into the trade deadline needing 2 now. You got to get him going. You have to get him going.
Well, especially too, like with the amount of struggles that the power play has been having, I feel like if he's not going to bring anything else, at least we know he's been successful. Maybe it hasn't happened this year, but he's been successful in the power play, and that's when this power play has flourished the most. At least this 5 forward unit has flourished the most. I'd like to see him just go back up with Kopitar and Kempe and just give it a longer run. I mean, the way the Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere line's been playing, I feel like you're getting some good, consistent minutes out of them now. You don't really have to worry about them as much. Hopefully, more Dano Fogel. I thought tonight was a better game for them. Maybe they can kind of continue that play. You can kind of keep them going the way they're going. And like the short amount of time we saw Armia, Turcotte, and Perry together, they look tremendous. Yeah. It's like we need to see that again to together. And it's like otherwise you get to these points of where tonight where you're kind of chasing offense, and someone had mentioned it earlier that Armia was benched. It's like he's not benched. It's just that he's not going to produce offensively like he can some of these other players. And I feel like that's where you bring up a player like Perry or somebody, and you play Fiala more minutes or something like that. I mean, we even saw Turcotte and Malott be playing some shifts in the third period because they were looking for offense in the way they were playing. So I don't know. I just think it's just Kuzmenko, I feel like, brings a little bit more skill than a lot of other players. I don't think I'm saying something out of the realm here. It's like that's just what he is. He's a high skilled forward who's going to produce offense, and he's not necessarily known for his defensive play, but we know that how this team loves to play. We know what they prioritize. It's like when you're not doing that, it's like what else can you bring to the table? And we know Kuzmenko obviously doesn't kill penalties, so if he's not producing 5-on-5, he's not helping out the power play, the scratch happens. So I would like to see him back on PP1. I think you're getting, and maybe try to get some of that magic back together. But yeah, I don't, not that I don't like Armia on top line. I just don't think it's a viable option long term. I think if you can get him, and then you can put him back like the same thing we saw with like Trevor Lewis last year, right? Like when you get to those moments where you're like defending a lead or whatnot, put Armia up there, and then you can kind of play those minutes and give him those shifts there. So
at least it's Armia and not Lewis.
Exactly. And you,
yes.
So
can I ask?
I don't know. Hopefully they can figure out something with Kuzmenko.
So with Kuzmenko, so because clearly Perry is going to be on PP1, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not here to argue that. But if Kuzmenko goes on, where does he play? Because like Kuzmenko was that kind of down low right off the post. He was a pass option, but then he would creep to net front. Like, where does he play? And how do they set up the power play? Because if he's in that down low kind of corner role where he was, I'm not sure how it works and how it functions, because if Perry's kind of net front, I just wonder how it all goes together at that point.
Well, if Perry's there, then Kuzmenko's not going to be there. I feel like that's
okay. So that's okay. So do you prefer Kuzmenko on PP1 to Perry?
That's a tough one, because I get the way that Perry's been playing. Perry's obviously, I feel like, a better net front presence than Byfield is right now.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, yeah, that's tough. I'd have to.
That's where it's trying to fit the pieces together.
Yeah.
Because I don't disagree with you about it, like with Kuzmenko. That's why I'd say, you know what, maybe put him on PP2 and let him sit in the bumper and get some creativity out there with Byfield down low and Turcotte. I think there's something there. But yeah, we'll see with Kuzmenko. Hopefully it's short lived. They need him.
Yeah, so kind of in line with Kuzmenko being scratched, it kind of opens up a hole a little bit, I feel like, for the Kings top 6. So Joe, let's get into what we love to talk about here, and that's some trade rumors and speculation, because everybody that watches this show or listens to us, we love to talk about trades, and we love to have Randon wear his tinfoil hat. I don't have a tinfoil hat, unfortunately, so we can't get too crazy here. I don't want to do that without Randon. I feel like we're be taking away his thing. Maybe we should make one though, just kind of commemorate him a little bit. But yeah, I feel like if this team doesn't trust Kuzmenko to be this like legitimate long-term option, or at least a viable option this season, because he's obviously only signed for 1 year, which I thought was a great decision by Ken Holland. You're not taking a lot of risk there, because if he does have to get sat, whatever, it's $4 million this year, and then you can worry about it, whatever, just this season, and then he comes off the books. But like I mentioned earlier, like having Joel Armia, even though he's been playing pretty solid, he only played 13 minutes tonight. You're starting him on the top line. If that's not a guy that you can trust on the first line, or at least I guess quote unquote first line, because I think Fiala, Byfield, LaFerriere is maybe the more legitimate first line right now. It seems like this team is still in search of another winger. I mean, is that kind of what you're seeing, or is there any other players or positions you're looking at right now? And are there some names maybe you're keeping in mind as far as looking at the way that teams are playing now, some of the more struggling teams? Because there are some struggling teams out there. I know Nashville's names have been mentioned in terms of what they're going to be doing. Barry Trotz's name's probably on the hot seat with the way that team's kind of off to a rough start. Calgary's 4-12-2. They're on a terrible start. It seems like they're on the Gavin McKenna track right now, and there are some other names out there. So are there any names, positions? What are you looking at right now as far as trades right now?
I mean, I think wing is the position. Like, is it the position that I think is the biggest need? No. But the position that I think is the biggest need is locked up on the blue line. So there's no sense in me talking about the blue line.
Defensemen are going anywhere, Joe.
Right.
We got to let it go.
No sense talking about that. But you know what I found interesting, Russ, is there's 4 teams in the National Hockey League that are 3 points or more out of a playoff spot. That's it. Everybody else is in the hunt. There's one team in the Eastern Conference that's more than 2 points out. Buffalo. Like in the West.
After the game tonight, Toronto's in 9th place in the East right now.
Yeah, they're 9th place, and look how many points out they are.
Or maybe the second to last team, I guess, not 9th. Second to last team in the East, 4 points ahead of Buffalo.
1 point out of the second wild card, despite being all the way down there. Like, that's how crazy this is.
I like seeing it the other way, because it makes it seem like Toronto's worse than they really are. It's funnier to me. But yeah, you're right.
I like that. I'm with you there. But just like when I think about, like, you got to consider, oh boy, this could be a seller's market, because there may not be that many sellers, because there's been so many 3-point games. There's been so much parity in this league this year, where they're right now as you sit today, there's probably 3 true sellers. You mentioned Calgary and Nashville, and then Buffalo. Buffalo could be looking at this as like, can we just keep our heads above water, because we have freaking half our rosters out? So if we get these guys back, maybe we go on a second half run type of thing. So again, I think that's probably wishful thinking at this point, given so many injuries and where they are in the standings. But it's important to remember that right now there's only a couple teams that are truly kind of really appearing out of it, and Calgary is one of them. So when I look at these teams with wingers on the teams that we've just mentioned, Alex Tuck is the big one that comes to mind in Buffalo. Unrestricted free agent after the year. My hesitation with a guy like Tuck is that's going to cost you a first plus. In my opinion, I don't think the Kings are an Alex Tuck away from contending for a Stanley Cup. So is getting out of the first round so crucial that it's worth trading a first plus for Alex Tuck and what would be a rental, because there's no guarantee that he comes back. Right. And I guess what I mean by that is like, I want to be like, they hit a home run with Kuzmenko last year. That's what I want to try to find, is to try to find that, thread that needle where you don't have to trade a ton of assets. You don't have to trade your first. You don't have to trade your green tree. And you don't have to trade, maybe one of your top goalie prospects, which I'm on board doing if it's for a player with term. But Tuck is not that player. And I don't want to, to me, it's the cup contenders that trade your firsts and trade your big guns for an Alex Tuck. Like, I think Tuck is a guy that is a perfect piece for like a legit contender, like a Vegas, like a Colorado, Edmonton. Go down the line. Like, these teams are, or another team in the East, one of these teams in the East that end up, finding their way through New Jersey. Like, again, the Kings in my mind are not a cup contender with or without Tuck. So it's like, I don't want to trade assets for a guy that it's going to help me get out of the first round. Big assets. Like, I'm comfortable if I can find a hockey trade, or if I can find some assets saying like, hey, like, I can find that Kuzmenko-ish deal who for a high skill player, or a player that's maybe undervalued, a player that a team is looking to, for lack of a better term, dump, or maybe not dump, but looking to do something different with. That's where I'm targeting, because unless we're talking about somebody with term. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, or if you think the Kings are an Alex Tuck away, maybe from being a Stanley Cup contender, and you're on board and you would trade a first and or a green tree for an Alex Tuck type of thing. You know what I mean? But that's where I'm at. But Tuck is one of the names, given how Buffalo's going. There's a lot of other. I see the chat has fired off some ones in the chat that we can certainly talk about. But and that's, I want to reiterate, I think Tuck is a really good player. I just, and I'm sure he fits the Kings really well. Again, yeah. I'm looking at it but the thing is, it doesn't matter if I think the Kings are a cup contender. Ken Holland does. So that's be ready for a first to be gone by this deadline for probably a top 6 winger.
I want to play a little game here, Joe.
Okay.
And so you want to play a little game? Let's play a little game. Let's play tradable. I'd have to think about it, or untouchable.
Okay.
You ready? So I'm going to give you a player pick or whatever, and you tell me one of those 3. Let's start. Okay. Kings first round pick this year.
Tradable.
And this is for like just for like a rental, whatever. We're just throwing it out there. So
if the first, so I'll say, like, if any of these are the main piece, like if it's a first and then like a mid prospect, or a first and like a third, or whatever, like then I don't care so much about the picks. So I'm okay with that.
Joe says fuck them picks, so I love it.
Yeah,
all right.
Correct.
Liam Greentree.
Scenario dependent.
Scenario dependent. All right, so you have to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in that same realm.
Like
he's not,
for example,
not Tuck, for a rental.
Yeah, for Tuck, no, not for a rental.
Yeah.
You give me a winger with term, I don't know, like Tuck's teammate, Tage Thompson.
Okay.
I don't know if they're willing to do that. Russ, maybe,
Seems like you really want them to.
I mean, I'd be open to it. I'm a big Kyrou fan.
Tone of your voice. I could hear it in the tone of your voice change there.
Yeah. I'm a big Kyrou fan.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been trying to watch a bit more of Owen Tippett lately with the Flyers. I'm a fan. So, is it crazy to think that in a couple years they want Greentree to be like an Owen Tippett, and maybe you could just get Owen Tippett?
Mm-hmm.
That's a legit question. Like, if I'm crazy for saying that, like,
I mean, if Liam Greentree grows into an Owen Tippett, I think you win, right? Like
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, is
yeah.
that right? So if we get Owen Tippett, just a little
Owen
bit
Tippett was like
sooner?
the 13th overall pick or something. He was the pick right before Gabe Velarde, I believe. So
Okay,
12,
so 12
11,
or
whatever
something.
it was. 12, yeah.
Yeah, and like I think he's a player. I think he fits. He skates really well. Good shot. I like him. So Greentree, I'm not itching to trade, but if the scenario's there, and the reason I'm so hesitant is because they have nothing in terms of forward prospects. Like they don't have much.
Yeah, agree. As far as the first round pick, I'm on the table. Like it's tradable. Like whoever, anybody for me, like give it away. Whatever.
Because like getting out of the first round, first round pick means a lot. So if it's if it's a first for a rental, then get me out of the first round and get me out of my misery with that. But like if it's then it gets tougher to do later as you go, like the Greentree.
Yeah, and for those in the chat, like throw off some names of players you want us to talk about, or if you got any questions, we'd love to answer them at the end of the show or as we get going here. So, but I'm gonna keep going with this little game because I'm having some fun with my man here. Carter George,
tradable.
Oh,
come on! You knew that. You knew it.
I knew that was coming, but I wanted you to put it out there for the world to hear.
Tradable. F them goalies and F them picks. Like I listen, and now worth noting, Portillo's hurt. Right, he left last game early. But listen. When is Carter George going to be an NHL goalie and a one that's like you're counting on? Ken Holland ain't going to be here. That's for sure. It's got to be at least 3 years away, right?
Yeah.
He's not even the AHL yet. Like he's 3 years away. The Kings, Lord knows where they'll be in terms of any window. Like, I see somebody in the chat, I'd trade Slakinski before George. Okay, sure. Yeah, so would I. But like Russ asked me about George. So George.
I mean, we could just tie them both in. It's hard to like because I hear people say like Carter George is better than Slakinski. It's like, how do we know? Where are we seeing that? Like obviously George has maybe put up better numbers. Okay, maybe he's looked better in some preseason games. We haven't seen Slakinski in a preseason game yet because he plays in college. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to really kind of gauge like where they're two at. I mean, for me, they're just kind of maybe even in terms of like where I think their potential is going to be because I don't know what it is. I just know they're playing really solid at where they're at. They're both, I guess Carter George is a second round pick and Slakinski, fourth, fifth round pick. So maybe you got a little bit more in terms of pedigree with the high draft pick in terms of George, but
how long does it take? How long? Wallstead was an elite goalie prospect for what? 4 years, 3 years, and now he's up in Minnesota. I don't know that he's playing like he's not their one, right? I don't think he's 1B.
No, I don't even think he's that. Yeah.
So like
they have Gustafsson,
right? And Askarov,
and they just re-signed Gustafsson. It's like a long-term deal.
Yes, and Askarov was around that time with Nashville, taken him a while, and now he's seeing regular time in San Jose. Devin Levi has been highly touted for a few years in Buffalo. He's been in Rochester, and he just got pulled the other day. Great quote by the coach, by the way.
Chicago.
Right. It takes goalies time, and it's okay that it takes them time. Like I'm not saying that that's a problem, but by the time Carter George is ready to be an NHL goalie and a like you can count on him to be at least your two. Like, where are the Kings in their whatever they are their window? Are they contenders? Are they turning a corner? Are they transitioning? And who knows what the Kings have done in net up to then? Like, will Kemper still be here? Will they have acquired a different goaltender in a trade? Will Portillo have gotten healthy and like won the job? Like, yes, trade the goalies.
Love it.
The Kings went from we have no goalie prospects to in a matter of what, 2 off seasons, we have the best goalie prospects in the league.
In the
It
world.
took snap of a finger, trade them.
Everybody clip that so we can revisit it after Carter George posts great shutouts in the World Junior Championships and leads Canada to a gold medal. So we can all yell at Joe for that. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, goalies are goalies. Like, we've seen it in the NHL. I mean, when Darcy Kemper was traded here, we all thought he'd be like, oh, whatever. And look, now he put up Vezina finalist year last year. Kind of looked to kind of carry that momentum into this year. And hey, he might be starting for Team Canada at the Olympics this year. It kind of looking that way, the way he's been playing, I feel like. Even though tonight, it's funny. It's like all those goals were against him, and he has 12 saves on 15 shots. It's like probably one of his better games, and yet he puts up those numbers. So that was a fun game. I don't really have any other feel like big name prospects. Like, I could say Brant Clark, but you'd probably punch me through the virtual.
Well, I was going to say that. I was just going to ask you, is there a scenario where Brant Clark? I mean, it can't, because that just opens up another hole. Like, I don't think that at this point makes any sense. Now the summer, I'm nervous, but I think at this point, I don't think it makes any sense, right?
I don't think so either. I don't think there's really any players out there. I mean, obviously, there's always players out there you would trade Brant Clark for. Like, I'm not like if friggin' Quinn Hughes was available, whatever, and then I'm thinking, okay, yeah, let's do some talking here. But
I want to get to West Coast hockey bias's comment. If Connor McDavid, or if Evans had a goalie, McDavid would have 3 rings. It means a lot. Goalies mean a lot. Yes, don't confuse what I'm saying. And this isn't like, goaltending is huge. Goaltending is extremely important. Goaltending is crucial. The goalie doesn't matter. We see it every year where it's ups, it's downs. Some guys are great, some guys are not great. It's very hard, with the exception of like those top handful that you can consistently count on year in, year out. Winnipeg cannot get a save in the playoffs despite having the back-to-back Vezina candidate. It doesn't, like, what do you do? Like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, the goaltending is extremely important, and I don't downplay goaltending. It's just the goalies, you can't trust them, and I don't like and because a goalie's good at 18, 19 doesn't mean he's good at 25 when it's time to win a cup. I don't know.
Totally agree, and I think Peter DeBoer would agree with you too. Let's go. Okay, that was a fun game. I want to get into some, because people are rattling off some names here as far as trade targets, and there's some fun ones here. Chinnikov in Columbus. To be honest with you, I don't know much about Chinnikov. I just know is it Yegor Chinnikov? I could be totally wrong there, but I believe he's a younger player in Columbus who is maybe growing out of favor there, from what I've heard. Yeah, like I said, I don't know much about the mayor. Do you know a lot about him, or?
No, honestly, no. I know more about Voronkov, who I'm a huge fan of.
Okay.
Not to say that Voronkov is available. I'm not suggesting that. I just know that I am a fan of Voronkov. But it is interesting. Chinnikov's name I've seen thrown out quite a bit. In particular, I've seen it locally with Buffalo, kind of at the start of the season, because Jarmo Kekalainen is in Buffalo now. He drafted Chinnikov. Chinnikov, was he the guy that was drafted like nobody knew who he was? They drafted him in the first round, and it was like a off-the-board pick that threw it. Remember Columbus did that a few years back? I could be way off on that, Russ.
21st overall. I don't know.
And, well, anyways.
Sounds familiar. I know. I think I can see.
His name is out there. His name has been out there. I'm with you that I don't have a strong feel on the player to have a definitive take here. So I'd have to do a little digging on that.
And that's kind of where, because I've seen Chinnikov's name get mentioned to me multiple times. It's like, okay, like the Kings get Chinnikov. What happens? Are they all of a sudden going to win a first round series because of Chinnikov here? He has 4 points in 11 games. Right. Like, let's think bigger here, people. Come on.
Now he's an RFA. He's in that kind of, what's he, 23? How old is he? 24. He's an RFA after this year. So he's under team control for a bit. So That's attractive, right? But again, to your point, I don't think. I mean, I don't know that that's a Ken Holland target. Like, I think Ken Holland he's wanting the cup. He's here to win Stanley Cup. And I don't know if Chinnikov is the piece.
JG7 says, are you referring to Jesperi Kotkaniemi?
I love Jesperi Kotkaniemi, by the way, but no, it's not. I don't think that's what I'm thinking of. I'll try to find out.
Okay. Another name I've seen floated around multiple times is Ryan O'Reilly from the Predators. And there's going to be, we'll talk about a few Predators here. I think this is going to be the National Predators target. I obviously love the player Ryan O'Reilly. I wanted the Kings to sign him when he was a free agent a couple years ago. Just like there's players and holes or positions on this team where I totally agree. I feel like they can definitely upgrade. At least if we're looking at Philip Deneau here, you can probably upgrade in terms of bringing in Ryan O'Reilly. I just don't see the Kings trading away any of their centers or defensemen to bring in another piece. That's just my opinion. I don't see that happening. I think they love as much as Philip Deneau doesn't score, he's a player that they rely on and lean upon in terms of other situations, whether it be the penalty kill or certain 5-on-5 metrics that Joe shared. So as much as I would love Ryan O'Reilly or maybe some other centerman, I just don't see a situation where they get into center. They're obviously not trading Kopitar. They're not trading Byfield. They're not trading Deneau. I mean, I don't see that happening. It could happen. Not to say it won't happen. And even if you do trade Turcotte, you're trading for a fourth line center, where I think Turcotte kind of brings decent value at that position for his salary. Are you kind of in the same line of thinking there?
I am. Like, I do agree that I think like the Kings need a number one center. I don't think Kopitar is quite that at this, like a number one legit 1C. And I don't think Kopitar is quite that. Byfield, I don't think is that yet. You know, they got a bunch of 2-3Cs right now, and I think that's a problem. So I think that I don't think they're going to go get a center for that reason. I mean, I don't think they're going to be in a situation where they're going to move Byfield back to the wing just to accommodate for that. So I would be surprised if they went for a center. Now, I think O'Reilly has played some wing in his career, so maybe. But I'll be a little surprised if that happens at the deadline. You know, obviously next summer is a totally different story, but I'd be surprised.
The next name I want to talk about, and now we're getting somewhere. Now you guys are tickling my fancy, as some would say, and that is John Dexter mentioning the name Steven Stamkos from the Nashville Predators. And obviously a household name, superstar, started in Tampa Bay, the first overall draft pick, right in front of our guy, Drew Doughty. Hasn't really found his game in Nashville, to say the least. Probably is maybe a little disgruntled. Definitely gruntled. But he's got 2 more years. He signed this year, obviously. Got 2 more years after that at $8 million. He does have a no movement clause, but I feel like this is the type of situation where if things continue the way they're going in Nashville, we might see some names start to jump ship. And I feel like Stamkos would be one of the names, because that's probably a guy who's still got quite a bit of value just off his name alone. He's 35 years old, right shot, obviously a lethal weapon on the power play. So maybe you can help out a little bit there. He's got only 4 points. Oh my God, he's got 4 points in 18 games this season. Jesus Christ, he needs to get out of there. And he's averaging 12.56, 5-on-5 this year. Wow. What is going on with Steven Stamkos? And could he be a fit for the Kings, you think, Joe?
Age-wise, he slots in perfect at 35 years old. I think that's going to really be attractive to Ken Holland. I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
Maybe I'm crazy. but I think you're getting a player at the back end, the tail end of his career. Again, he's going to be 36 at the, after the trade deadline. He'll be 36. He'll be 36 at the start of next season. You've mentioned, and I know he's with Nashville, but like if he was truly that big of an impact, he wouldn't have 4 points.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. When I saw that, it was like, whoa. Okay.
So I get it that I think coming out of that situation, he could probably breathe a little life into him and maybe his little juice. I agree with you on the power play. There could be something there. Not my first option.
Okay. Yeah. The more I think about it and seeing his points alone kind of scared the bejesus out of me. So, I mean, you definitely would have to get some retention there. And even then, as much as it sounds great to have a player like Stamkos on the team, and I think I'm Ray G. Biv here says it perfectly. This is Vinny LeCavalier, Jerome McGinley level signing, kind of all over again. It definitely would have that feel.
Yeah,
I feel like
McGinley, LeCavalier, Lucic, like it has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah, those were fun times, right? Like 16, 17 years.
Rough years.
Oh yeah, great names, great jerseys to pick out. Another name that I haven't seen people mention here, I wanted to bring up is, what do you think of Jonathan Marchessault?
I feel
obviously on Nashville. I'll just read off his contract real quick.
Yeah,
he's got 2 more years, or 2 more years, 3 more years at 5.5.
Yeah,
34 years old. Obviously, he's got the winning pedigree with Vegas. Right shot forward, playoff experience, seems to produce well in the playoffs. I don't think it's obviously wouldn't necessarily break the bank as much as Stamkos would. So, and you got some term there. Is that a player you wouldn't mind seeing the Kings target?
Again, I'm not excited about it, and his name has been brought up a few times last few years, particularly because he's right shot. I don't know why I can't get there with him. I think it's been I think the biggest thing is the years. Like he's here till he's like 40.
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, that said, that probably fits Holland. He likes pros. So, maybe that could be a realistic target. But again, it's just the term for 4 more years, three more years after this. And again, it's going to take him till he's 38, 39 years old. What were his what's his last couple of years been like?
He's got 6 points this year. The last few years he's got, let me just bring up his stats. I'm scrolling. I can't find him.
So sorry. I got 50. So he had 56 points. All right. He had 56 points in Nashville last year, 21 goals. The last year in Vegas, 42 goals, 69 points. He had 57 points, 66 points the year before that. But 30 goals, 28 goals, 42 goals, and then the big drop off. I mean, he's cut his goals in half when he went to Nashville. He might not score 42 goals combined in his 9 years in Nashville by the time he's done with that contract. So I don't know. Again, probably a guy that would benefit from a change of scenery. But I don't know if again, that much, like, I mentioned I'm okay with bringing in guys with term. I didn't mean like 34-year-olds with term. If I could avoid it. Not my first choice.
Got it. Okay. This is an interesting name. I love that people are mentioning the name. So yeah, if you got a name, throw in the chat and we'll try to talk about it. What about picking up Evander Kane? I know obviously Vancouver's, who knows what their goal is. Everybody's kind of still in it. I thought about that too. I feel like that's a name that might, if Vancouver starts to fall off a little bit. What's his contract look like? I'm bringing it up right now.
Only a 1-year deal.
He's got one. He's a free agent next year. So modified no trade clause. Obviously, Ken Holland's a fan because I think he brought him over when he was with Edmonton. I kind of don't mind that if he does become available. What do you think?
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I'm trying to put my Ken Holland hat on, and like I can totally see Kings Oilers round 5.
Yeah, we
Why
got
not?
Cody CC, we
We got
got Corey
CC.
Perry.
Yep. Let's bring in Kane and
Yeah.
let's have him just skate around and piss off Draisaitl for 7 games. Maybe. Um, I don't hate it as much as I thought I would.
I'm kind of with you too.
But I think but where does he fit? Like, because he's not a top 6 winger.
Yeah.
So that still leaves us like
Kind of searching for one, right?
yeah, and now what are we putting Armia up, keeping Armia up? Are we scratching somebody? Like that's the thing with Kane is like we have third and fourth line. Ideally, we have our third and fourth line set.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get Armia off the first line and put him down on the fourth line where he should be. You got Fogle with Deneau and Moore. Like we're searching for that top 6 winger. Leferrier is with Byfield and Q. So who's the winger with Kopitar? And that's who we're searching for. Is Kane that guy? Is that what you're saying?
Kane, Turcotte, and Perry on the same line together on the fourth line. That would be
so.
Right? We've seen it.
I'm okay with that. The kicker there is that where are you putting Armia? Now you're putting Armia higher in the lineup. That's the only problem. If there's an injury, like say Armia goes down or Perry goes down, I'll pick up the phone and call about Kane.
Yeah, that's an interesting name because obviously he probably wouldn't cost too much. Although, like you said, it's most likely going to be a seller's market. And a lot of the UFAs that do come up, I don't really trust Vancouver to do much in terms of gunning for a playoff spot.
No, they stink.
So I feel like that's going to be a name to watch. I feel like we'll be talking about Kane once we get closer to the March deadline.
Yeah,
here
I can see teams really being interested in him.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to get to your bread and butter here because this is a guy that I know you love, Mr. Jordan Kyrou. This is a guy, Joe. Every morning I wake up to a message that says, "How can we get Jordan Kyrou on the Kings?" And I say, Joe, I don't know. So, Joe, I want you to tell us what you think about Jordan Kyrou and the cost you would think it would get to get him because he is pretty much checks all your boxes, right? He signed a term. He's got 4 years left at $8.13 million. And like John B says, the Blues are kind of struggling a little bit, and Jordan Kyrou has been very much in and out of favor with some things going on. The Blues, he was a healthy scratch just a couple of games ago, so there's something going on there. I could definitely see him being moved. So yeah, let's talk about your boy here.
I want him. And you asked earlier about a couple players, and Green Tree is somebody that was like situation dependent. Jordan Kyrou is the situation. I would be open to that. And I think again, I just think he checks a lot of boxes. He's a not a huge guy, but he's like a bigger body, can skate really well, can shoot the puck, scores off the rush. Like he brings an element of speed. Like I like him so much. He's 20. I think he's 27 years old. So
27.
We'll take him into his low to mid 30s. Now, granted, I don't know how this player is going to age. So 33 for him may be like 38 for some guys. I don't know how he ages, but I'm here for Kyrou. So I don't know what I assume the cost would be big. But I'm very interested in that player. Now, the thing with if you're St. Louis, so right now they sit in 7th place in the Central Division. They're 5 points out of 3rd place again, who is Winnipeg. So they're 3 points behind sixth in Minnesota. They're 5 points behind Chicago. They're 5 points behind Utah, Winnipeg, Utah, Chicago, all tied at 20 points for third place in the Central Division. So like they're running out of time. I know last year they went on a run in the second half, but like they're really up against it. It is not the start that they were expecting. So again, like I said earlier, like if Green Tree turns into Kyrou, we're ecstatic, I think.
Absolutely.
And I go back to I'm trying to look at this like partly through my lens, but also partly through Ken
Kenny.
Holland's lens, in that like again, he's not here for a short time. He's here to win a cup. And if Jordan Kyrou's a guy
I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. Is Ken Holland's motto.
It is. And I think Kyrou is one of the few guys on this short list that could be worth taking that run at.
He's definitely the guy that, I mean, like if you want to get excited as a Kings fan over not necessarily just this year, but maybe the next few years once Kopitar leaves, it's like, okay, like what do we have to build around? You really only have Kempe, as hopefully he resigns, which, I mean, we're all kind of hoping that still happens sooner here. But, I mean, you have Kempe, Byfield, and kind of Clark. Fiala is obviously still going to be here too. I think Kyrou would be that extra kind of star name that this team could not necessarily build around, but that's like another piece you can have and be like, okay, this team can still be a contender with those players around. And like you said, he just fits a ton of boxes. And it's funny because I'm looking at his numbers at on Money Puck. He's well in front of everybody on their team in terms of relative expected goal share. And that's my favorite stat to look at because it measures the player's on ice impact compared to the team's impact when he's off the ice. He's got a 63.2% goal share, expected goal share when he's on the ice. The team has a 49% expected goal share when he's off the ice. So he's got a positive 14.2% relative expected goal share. That's the best, probably one of the best in the league, to be honest with you. So as far as the defenseman, I don't know what his deployment is. I know a lot of people talk about that with certain players, but that itself kind of says to me like, okay, if you're getting good minutes with him on the ice and their team's not performing well with him off the ice, that kind of says like, okay, he's a good player. And I see it too. Like he's got the speed. He kind of brings a lot of the elements that this team, in terms of the Kings, probably need. That speed on the rush factor, creating scoring chances there, and he's a right shot to kind of mix in with a lot of the lefties that the Kings have. You have him for term, and at $8.13 million with the way the salary cap's going, that's going to look like a pretty good bargain if he continues to perform the way he's probably been performing, even though he's been not necessarily the biggest fan of Montgomery there in St. Louis.
Well, look at his last year, 36 goals. Year before that, 31 goals. Year before that, 37 goals. Year before that, 27 goals in 74 games. The COVID year, 14 goals in 55 games. You look at last year in the playoffs, 3 goals in the 7 games. The last time they made playoffs was 21-22. In 12 games, he had 7 goals and 9 points. I know that was a few years back, but he's a guy that can. He's not a game breaker like Kevin Fiala. Like I don't want to. I'm not using the word game breaker, but I'm like he's a guy that can score off the rush. Like I also don't want to compare him to Kempe, but like this guy's got 4 seasons in a row of 30 plus goals, so it's not a crazy thought. Like this guy can score off the rush. He can beat goalies from distance. And the Kings, as I say that, how many Kings players can beat goalies from distance? Like a top of the circle coming down the wing besides Adrian Kempe?
Not many.
Not many.
If any.
It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Well, Joel, that's right. Cannon. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to consider this guy. So yeah, man. If you keep hoping that St. Louis loses, because Kyrou's Kairu's a guy high on my list. Al Smith is Lieb. I think Al Smith is Lieb. Lieb hates Lieb's been in this chat before. He hates Jordan Kyrou, and Al Smith is not. I can just tell he's not on board with.
There's like a, and I'm going to say a name here, and I don't want anyone to cower or like turn off the stream here, but there's like a PLD Dubois kind of feeling I get with Kyrou.
That you get, or that
no, I feel like that, like it's like
the
that
fan, like
exactly that overall, exactly. You kind of get that too, where there's that like
there's some people that are comparing the two, and what I would say is I don't care. 36, 31, 37 goals the last 3 years. If you're going to be PLD and score 30 goals, like which PLD has done, by the way, like I'm cool with it. I think what happens with that stuff, because PLD just had a great year last year in Washington. He had a career year. You know, he's been good everywhere except for Los Angeles. So take that for whatever it's worth. But like, I think what happens with these guys, it's happened sometimes with Ovechkin too, where it looks like the controller shuts off and that's the highlight that gets clipped. You know, I just think that happens with certain guys. PLD is clearly one of them. PLD's hurt 49ers. He's chirping him for points. He's hurt. He's like surgery done for months.
Like 3 months, yeah.
Yeah. Like Kyrou, like he's had that moment. Like Phil Kessel used to have these moments. You know, Phil Kessel used to get throttled about his two-way game and his effort. Phil Kessel could
William Nylander does it every game.
And I think I adore William Nylander. I love him.
And I hate him.
And you hate him. But I think he's a stud. I love him. But like, I think that people get too like hung up on, I think they see certain clips and then like their mind's made up. So that's where, and I get it. Like the players got to own that. I said it before when the Kings acquired PLD, like he's got to own some of those clips because like they ain't good, you know, but so I get it, but I'm not the random clips of Kyrou don't turn me off.
That would be fun. I feel like bringing a player like Kyrou in and you just slot him right there in the top 6 wherever.
Yep.
And I think the Kings, I don't know if I'd pick them to beat the Oilers, but I'd certainly give them a better chance than what they have right now. Because
agreed.
There's still a missing piece here. There's, even with how well they've been playing lately, I feel like they've been playing teams that, even though Montreal had been winning a lot of games, they've still been giving up a lot of chances. They just lost 7. I think it was 7-0 tonight to Dallas.
So I want to talk about that because I think that's still the recipe though. Because Montreal, I thought was dangerous in the first period. Like that could have been 3-0 after the first period. Montreal, and it's a different conversation. Kemper made some big saves, but I think like a more, I'll use the word mature team that plays that way, i.e. Colorado. Like we've seen now Colorado, San Jose, and at least that first period against Montreal. And so there was that 4-minute stretch where the game just got away from them. But like that speed element has caused a problem for LA. And, you know, I still have concerns there because I think that, like Montreal is a team that's going to have these games where because they are very young. And I think, you know, we talked about it. Like I actually picked them to miss playoffs this year, albeit like I don't think it's like a step back. I just think they're still like next year, I think they're look out. Like I think they're figuring it out still. You know what I mean? So they're going to have crazy games. And like you said, they got smoked today. But I think they're going to be fine. But I still think that speed element is an issue for LA, and adding a guy like Kyrou can help that. Can I ask, and I'm sure we'll touch on a couple other names here, particularly some guys in Philly, but do you think are any of the guys that we have talked about or will talk about, does it change your thought on, you know what, this guy, the Kings may be a cup contender now by getting a Jordan Kyrou or by getting an Owen Tippett or by getting a, let assume all else stays equal. Like the D core is the D, the goalie stays the goalies, no injuries up front. They add this one piece. Kuzmenko gets back in the lineup. Like, is that, where are you at there? Where are you at?
It's tough because I'm just like we say it every year the last few years. Like we're recording this, we're talking about it. It's like we're going to be previewing Kings Oilers in Game 1, first round. It's happened. It's going to happen. So I mean, I it's hard for me to pick even any team to beat the Oilers to get to the Stanley Cup final right now.
True.
So
that's fair.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, can the Kings? I mean, even if they get like a Kyrou, I just don't know if they can beat the Oilers because they're my pick to go to the final. So, but I'll say this: I think it gives them a better chance to do it because we saw what happened last year. There were a team that pretty much the same team. I mean, besides maybe the defensive end. We'll see what happens there. But up front, they're the same. It's the same lineup. Besides, even in Corey Perry's here, who's playing really well and brings that playoff kind of pedigree. So, but I just still think the Oilers are a better team because you get to those third periods. Like I always say, you get to the third periods, and their 5 players are better than our best 5 players. So it's tough.
Yeah.
We got a super chat real quick. I want to dive into this because we appreciate our super chats. Tofutomu, love it, buddy. Thank you. He says, how would you guys feel about Mason Marchment? I'm a huge fan of Mason Marchment. For those of you who followed me, I wanted the Kings to go after him when he was a free agent out of Dallas, I believe. Or was it Florida? It was Florida that he was a free agent. Then he got traded. I'm a huge fan. He brings that kind of Corey Perry, Evander Kane type of style where he's really in your face, can maybe pot some of those garbage goals here and there. He's a UFA at the end of this year, $4.5 million. So, I mean, kind of like in the same realm of like Evander Kane. I mean, I would love to see a name like that on the Kings. I don't know if it necessarily puts them over the edge like I would think maybe like or even gives them a better chance that I would think like a Jordan Kyrou would, or maybe like another name we'll talk about here on the Flyers that I want to get into. What do you think here, Joe?
I'm with you. I like the player Marchment. I know you've been eyeing him for a bit. I don't know a couple things. I don't know that again. He's like you said that he's like the impact kind of top 6 winger that LA necessarily needs. He's been 20 goals each of the last 2 seasons, 47 points last year, 53 the year before. With Dallas, off to a bit of a slow start in Seattle this year. But again, I'm with you. Like if there's an injury to a bottom 6, I just don't know that he's a top 2 line guy on a cup team, I guess is where I'm at. And but I think if the price was like this could be your Kuzmenko type deal. This could be a deal where all else falls, you don't get the big guy, but you might be able to get Marchment on a decent trade like they did with Kuzmenko last year, and he could pay dividends down the stretch. Like that wouldn't shock me, something like that. So maybe not my first target, but like I'm open to the player. Seattle right now, 19, they're off to a good start. They're 19 points. They're 4th in the division. They got 3 games in hand, for example, on Edmonton. Like, they're hanging
They're not
around.
playing terrible. Yeah, I watched the game. I watched their game last night against Columbus, and they got some talent there. I don't know if I see them hunting for a playoff spot. I think come like post Olympics, we'll be talking about them as sellers. I feel like because I look at their salary cap right now. There's some other names to probably keep an eye on. I mean, you've been a big fan of Jordan Eberle.
Yeah,
he's a unrestricted free agent. He also kind of I mean, these are all players that I feel like kind of fall in that same realm where the Andre Kuzmenko type deal. I think Eberle's maybe a little bit better of a player than that, but even then, it's like cool. I'm not doing somersaults here behind the microphone, but I'm getting a little bit excited, but not jumping for joy. And then there's another name in Jaden Schwartz. They're both
I've always liked him.
Eberle's $4.75 million unrestricted free agent next year. Jaden Schwartz $5.5 million unrestricted free agent next year. Is it? You kind of get the same sense as like they're decent names to target. Would be excited, but you don't really put them as far as like turning the Kings into cup contenders right away.
Agreed. Schwartz, I got a lot of time for Schwartz. He's a hockey player. Like I really all three of those guys. But I think that's kind of the that embodies like why Seattle can't take the next step. They got a bunch of these guys, which is great.
Yeah.
But like you need some stars, and I think that's been what's held them back. So we'll see if Seattle can keep hanging around. I'm not a believer necessarily in them. Like I fully expect Vegas to overtake Seattle and start their ascent here soon. So if Seattle does if Seattle does end up selling, but there's some pieces there. There are some pieces that I don't hate. That like, probably could come cheap-ish, maybe I'll say.
Yeah, I feel like they probably want to lose, to be honest, because you can get a lot of good futures and value for those type of players. I feel like come the trade deadline, and then like I don't think anybody's picking the Seattle Kraken to win a Stanley Cup this year. So
no,
I think for them, sellers would probably be they'd be better off being sellers. But knowing Ken Holland, they'll end up trading for Jamie Oleksiak and run 11-7 for the rest of the playoffs. So, but Toku Tomu, we appreciate the super chat. We got a few minutes left here, Joe. Obviously we had to dive into the Flyers. We talked about the Flyers a little bit the other day with the reports of Mark Bergevin kind of following them around. It kind of seems like maybe that had a Spengler Cup kind of vibe now, because I believe he's the GM for Team Canada for the Spengler Cup. I think is what I saw. So I could be wrong there, but I think
good
I
for
saw
other
that.
countries.
I think I saw that. I don't know if we talked about him too much, but Travis Konechny is a name that.
So yeah, we talked about him last week actually. Now that I don't know if like I said, I've had a blind spot for Philly probably since they acquired Rasmus Ristolainen, frankly, that I just chose. I'm done with them.
Turning it off.
I've had a bit of a blind spot for them. So for some reason, I severely underestimated Konechny. Like, yeah, that's a player. I'd just be surprised that they deal him. Tippett seems to be the name that's out there. I'm in on Tippett. So those guys, I'm very interested in if they actually become available. But again, Philly, I don't know that Philly wants to deal an Owen Tippett or a Travis Konechny for Liam Greentree or for a first-round pick. I think they're done with that. Like if there's a hockey trade to make, then maybe they make it. I don't know if I buy that Philly is going to sell. I think they're going to try to make a hockey trade because like right now, Philly is in a playoff spot. I mean, granted, everybody in the East is in a playoff spot. But
I think I'm in a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference.
Philly's 3 points out of second in the division. So like, I think it has to be a hockey trade.
That's like a team. I look at their lineup and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I like Couturier, Tippett, Zegras.
I can start to watch them more.
Yeah, I've been watching some games. Noah Cates, I'm a big fan of his. Tyson Forster. Bobby Brink's a good young player. Mitchkov has kind of been struggling a little bit, but I mean their blue line's
having a good season.
Yeah, their blue line's not terrible either. When you got Sanheim, Cam York, Nick Seeler, Drysdale, Zamula,
a couple young guys, Zamula and Andre. Yeah, they got there's. It's an intriguing team, which is why I think I don't think that they're like. I don't want to think they want to take away from it.
Yeah.
I understand if they're running out of options for guys, like there's no room or there's something with but that feels like a summer trade to me then.
Yeah, Tippett's an interesting one because he's got no trade protection this year, and then he's got a modified no trade clause kicks in next year. So I think that's probably why a lot of people are pointing to that player. as far as like tiers go, is Kairu like number one for you?
Of the
If you had
names
to
that
make a
we've
list?
talked about, and obviously as we get a little bit closer, to deadline time, we'll see what other names could be out there. But like, yeah, for me, he is. I mean, again, unless Buffalo gets crazy and starts to really sell, like then Tage Thompson becomes real attractive.
Oh, they're not that dumb. Come on, it's Buffalo, man. Come on.
And actually, so we'll see. But for me, of these names that have kind of been floated out there, yeah, like he's Kairu's probably atop my list.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd probably go Kairu, Tippett, and then I have some time for Evander Kane. To be honest with you, the more I think about it, I'm ready to cause some havoc, man. Like if they go up against the Oilers or something, just give me as much as I like. We hated watching Kane and Perry,
Yeah, of
and we
course.
know what they do in the playoffs, right? Like you're looking for playoff performers. That's what these guys do. They bring it and come April. It's just the type of players they are, and they'll ignite a fan base. I mean, we were all quick. A lot of Kings fans were maybe quick to poo-poo the Corey Perry signing, and look what he's been able to do in his first 12 games or so with the Kings. It's been great. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got a little bit of time for Evander Kane in a Kings uniform. I'm surprised I'm saying that.
I would say I don't hate it. I would say after Kairu and Tippett, I mean, I think Tuck has to be.
Okay,
I
yeah.
know he's a UFA, but Tuck would clearly be up there too.
Mhm.
And then the Seattle guys, like they're solid guys to add to your roster. Are they the game breaking, the whatever type? Probably not, but they're solid guys to add to to your roster and can probably fill any role that you needed them to. So
Love it. Love it. 49ers Rock came in here with a $2 super chat. 49ers Rock, you're the man.
thank you, sir.
Uh, I'm sure Randon McMahon loves your name. He's a big
Yes.
49ers fan.
Yeah.
He says, thanks for the hard work and great content. See you on the next one. Hey, we'll see you on the next one. And we really appreciate everybody that jumped in here tonight. This was a lot of fun. Like you said, we go in here thinking we do like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and we're in here for 2 hours talking trades. This is what gets us riled up here. But hey, maybe there's a little excitement because the Kings are starting to win now. Maybe that helps a little bit. 3-0 on the road trip to start. Got 3 more on the road to go with Ottawa on Saturday. Then you have Washington and another game in San Jose. For whatever reason, the games in San Jose are always on ESPN Plus. I don't get it. Like it always happens, but it is what it is. So let's see what they can do. Maybe they can continue their road success. But it's been a lot of fun to watch, and hopefully they do. For my guy Joe, for Randon who couldn't be here tonight, we appreciate you guys always tuning in here. Be sure to check out our articles. Our guy Kyle Garcia is absolutely killing it covering the Rain. The Rain are a lot of fun. Kenny Connors looks like he's playing some great hockey for the King or for the Rain. Jared Wright's playing some great hockey. There's a lot of fun. So make sure you check out at Kopitar4 HOAF on Twitter. Let's keep it rolling. So always on this podcast, go Kings go.